Welcome there, everyone. It is time for another study. Now, you and I, we've been a lot of places in Scripture. Lots of places. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little sewing. I'm going to take the needle, I'm going to thread it, and I'm going to stitch. And as I do, we're going to move through Scripture. We're going to see what people do, what they don't do, what God's doing, to kind of frame in all the places that we have been through these studies. We're looking at our response. Do we understand all that God is giving us? Do we understand that God hasn't abandoned us? Do we understand that we are a family? Checking our understanding, because there is a lot of teaching that can be done. And a person will know the highlights. They'll know some buzzwords. They'll know some things. But they won't be able to practice it and actually be a follower of Jesus, because all they know is the window dressing of what it means to be in the church. I don't want that for us. God does not want that for us. So we're going to start. I'm going to start with Daniel. And like I said, I got the needle threaded. I'm going to be stitching here. And as I go along, you can be stitching too. I want you to take out some kind of writing material, get a pen out there so you can be writing down if that's what you need to do. It certainly helps me. If it helps you, great. But that's what I suggest, just so that you can kind of plot this out on a piece of paper for yourself, as much notes as you need. I'm kind of a bare bones outline guy. I can kind of get it. Some people, they need a lot more detail because their mind just works better. They can really grab it better. However that works best for you, that's great. But like I said, we're going to start in Daniel. Let's go. We're going to jump right in here. Daniel in his book. We know about Daniel in the lion's den and all that. In the book of Daniel, Daniel is reading Scripture. Hey, wait a minute. I'm reading Jeremiah. Hey, let's see. There's years for the captivity. It looks like from Scripture that God is saying, well, the captivity is going to last this amount of years. And he's counting. He's looking through, okay, God says this. That would mean those years are done. We don't have to be over here. We could go home to Jerusalem. We could go home to Israel. That's Daniel. And he has a lot of life that he lives after that. We know that, we know Daniel. It's like this highlight of the story. But again, I threaded the needle here. Thread it with me, and let's keep going. Daniel finds that in Scripture. There is no YouTube in Daniel's day. There is no email. There is no texting. There is no, hey, I can tell somebody in Mongolia today something. And, 10,000, 12,000, whatever miles it is from me to Mongolia, boom, they know this very second. They did not have that. And so here's Daniel in the king's palace, in the capital, learning all this stuff, looking at Scripture. Hey, wait a minute. God says. So that's got to trickle from Daniel, because in Scripture, that's who we see. We go, oh yeah, and we just see this big picture, but what about everybody else? They've been yanked away. I mean, people are in captivity. Daniel is an example of that. He says, hey, it is time. Next for Scripture, we want to keep stitching. We're going to stitch into the book of Ezra. Ezra is a priest. We know that the time of the captivity is done. Ezra kind of continues that. Ezra's a priest. He goes back and they start to worship there in Jerusalem. They don't have a temple all built when Ezra gets there. They work on that. And a little bit after Ezra, what happens? The book of Nehemiah. And maybe you know about Nehemiah. He's the cupbearer to the king, and he gets set back, and he's like this big guy, and he says, okay, we're going to build the walls around Jerusalem. I'm bringing this cadre of people back. So Ezra was there with some priests and some people. They were doing some stuff years before Nehemiah comes. They're walking along. Captivity's over, man. We get to go back. We're here. We're doing this. We're going to build up the temple. We're going to worship the Lord here in Israel just like God wanted us to do. Great. Nehemiah comes, hey, we're going to build the wall up. Yeah, let's build a wall. Everybody's all excited. But if you know your scripture, you know what happens. They start to build the wall, and those people around say, man, we don't like that. They might come and try to attack us or something if they can hide behind the wall. So we're going to attack them while they're building the wall so it doesn't get done. That's a difficulty. But we know that story. If you're in scripture, you know the story. Nehemiah bolsters up all the people, and they get the work done, I think, in like 50 days. Boom. That wall is up. Everybody's like, they're pretty unhappy, but it's too late. The wall's up. The wall's up. The temple's being finished. All these things. And all this to say, the church, we're pretty good at knowing the highlights. You know, we've stitched Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah. Got it. We can see those stitches. That's easy. But the problem is, if you take this piece of paper here, let's say this is a piece of fabric. Okay, we're stitching here, way at the end, Daniel. In between Daniel and Ezra, if we were really stitching something, if you know anything about sewing, you know this is correct. Here's Daniel. There is a ton of little stitches in between Daniel and Ezra. There is a ton of little stitches between Ezra and Nehemiah. That's where we're at. As we go forward from Nehemiah, there is a ton of little stitches. And then, okay, here's one we know. The next one we're going to go to is Malachi, because in Malachi, the walls are up. The priests they're worshiping in the temple. People are coming to the temple to worship. They got all this going on. Yay! But remember, I said Daniel, bunch of little stitches. Ezra, bunch of little stitches. Nehemiah, bunch of little stitches. Lots and lots of little stitches. Malachi, another big stitch. I'm giving you these singular stitches as we go through here, but that line of stitches, there is a lot of handwork there that's happening. We're just really working. All this to say then, I don't want me to get discouraged, because this is the Christian life. This is what it looks like to follow Christ. It is not the high moments on the mountain that bing, 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 bing. It's the highlights. That's why they call it the highlights. That's why they call it peaks. Because in between the peaks, valley, peak, valley, peak. Just like when you're going to stitch, the needle goes in and comes up. Even between the stitches, even when you have small, tiny stitches, there's still a space there. That's life. We have to work in between the stitches too. That's still life. That's still the sewing, this line of sewing that's going along here. If this line back here, we slip a stitch, the string breaks, we can just start again, right? Sure, you could, but then that's all going to come apart. It all needs to hang together. And if it doesn't work. And so as you look at that, I want you to think about it. Are you discouraged today? Are you looking at your Christian life, your walk? Are you looking at the church, the local body that you're a part of, and saying, man, our pastor talks about, this church should be doing more. He sees God, laying out in front of us here. Wow, there's going to be more. And he's whooped. He's excited. And we look at our pastors sometime, we look at the board, we look at other Christians and think, excited? I'm not seeing it. Because we're down here going down into the valley. It's like, I can't see the peak over here yet. I'm still coming down into the valley. Maybe when I'm coming up, I'll see it. But right here, I can't see it. I'm looking down into the valley. This valley seems like a long place to me. But your pastor is saying, hey, God's bringing us up here. Even though we get there where God's showing our pastor where it's going to be, it's not that it's up and down. It's more of those peaks, of those noted points in time. And then it comes down. And we go through valleys. We're growing. This going down into the valley, coming up, that's growth. We come to these points to where we can put a mile marker. Boom, this is our faith. This is the walk of the church. This is the life of the church. Boom, there's a mile marker, just like us making a stitch. But that's just a mile marker. When you look at this and then look up here to, hey, we made this mile marker. Now you can look up there and go, oh, and the pastor goes, hey, the Lord brought us here. He's going to bring us here. And he sees it. They see it. And they're trying to communicate that. And they get excited about that. And a lot of times we look and go, what? Again, I'm looking in the valley because we're all off track. I'm looking in the valley. No. You see in front of you the valley. What's happening is you have been up in this peak. And God says, great. To get to the next one, there is growth that has to happen. So you're going to be ready for this peak. And so we go through that. But if you understand that, if you can get that into your head that God is growing me, I may think, what in the world's happening? And God says, I know what's happening. You're growing. Does God have it all plotted out? Okay, today, Todd here, he's going to be right there. No, he does not. He has big plans for me, for you, for his church. But just like with the Israelites, when they came up to the promised land, he had a plan. They were going to go in. This was the promised land. God was ready. But the people said, I don't know. And so I encourage you, as we're going through these times of growth, think about it really that way. Growth. You are growing. Even in this time, it may seem like nothing's happening. You're growing. That's why we come together with the other members of the church so that we can encourage each other, not to pat each other's fanny, just say, oh, yes, we're pretending. We're not pretending anything. But a lot of times I don't see what God's doing with me. I will tell people, man, I wish I was doing more. And they're like, hey, don't you realize you're doing this? You did. God's using you. And I'm like, and I can't argue because I look at what they're saying. I think about it in my head and I'm like, well, he is. But it just doesn't seem like, and that's what led me to the study here today. It doesn't seem like the peak because it's not. It's not supposed to be the peak. We're growing. And so, Christian brother and sister, today, let's be encouraged with each other, encouraging each other as we all grow. Even in times where we just get discouraged, depressed, we're growing. The speed of it we may not like it. But God can be trusted. And God's never the problem. And I'm not saying, oh, you're the problem. The issue is we need time to learn things. When you look at a 2-year-old, have you ever said, okay, I'm sorry, son or daughter, here's a 1040, you better fill out your taxes. They're looking. Look at this 2-year-old's like, I'm stringing sentences together. I don't know. A 1040? What's a 1040? They don't know. They're not ready because there's time to grow. You and I, there's time to grow. That peak is coming. But the growth is happening. It isn't just coming. Yes, it's coming, but it's happening. Be encouraged, brother and sister. It's happening.